everyone. Good Friday to you. It's Chat with Mac. It's Friday, which means we get to sleep in tomorrow, and we're all happy about that. So good afternoon to everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Nadeem, how are you, sir?
Oh, great. Yeah, it's been a great week for me. I got so much that I wanted to do. I got it done, so I'm happy. It's been a great week.
That's a
got
good
a lot
thing.
accomplished.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. So I wanted to, it's the beginning of the year. I mean, hell, man, we're mid-year or mid-month already, just like that. It's crazy. But I wanted to kind of really give people an understanding of who PCSN is. What better time than now, beginning of the year. And as we're reaching out to people and as we're transitioning, quite honestly, I think it'll be good for Nadeem to really have you to understand we're different. I mean, trust me when I tell you we do a lot of things differently than a lot of other MSPs or providers. And I think Nadeem should talk more about that and let you know how we're different.
Yeah, so I would change the wording on what you just said. I wouldn't say trust me. I would say try us out. You'll
try
see
us
that
out.
Different.
I love it. I love it. Try us out.
Yeah. So we've been doing this for over 20 years now, and at certain point. In any business, you do it long enough, at a certain point you reach maturity. And that's where we are. So, anybody can start up an IT shop. You can start it out of your garage, and then anybody can claim they do this, they do that. Anybody can claim to be an MSP. I mean, how do you define an MSP? You're hosting somebody's email in Office 365. Is that an MSP? So everybody has their own definition of a managed service provider. But then as you reach maturity, you go through the companies that are trying to be an MSP. They're still doing a lot of break fix. Majority of their revenues are still coming from the break fix services, or even services like Office 365 or hosting. These are monthly recurring fees. However, that does not make an MSP. When you become mature, and in the industry, what we like to call is the world-class MSP, when you get to that point, your process is so honed in, it's almost like flipping burgers. There's not much to go wrong. You figured it out, you figured it out how to flip a burger, right? So that's, of course, it's a much more complex process than just flipping burgers. However, the concept is the same. You've done it for so long, it is second nature. That does not mean that you stop innovating on your stack. That's your innovation is continuous on your stack. So but it's your stack that's the secret sauce. It's that process that's the secret sauce. Yeah. So this would be a good time to continue on going beyond what we recorded a while back. I talked about the different parts of the stack and how different parts work together. And we didn't go into much detail. It was just a basic, we just touched on some of the basics. So maybe we'll go a little bit deeper on that. And I'll link to that other video as well somewhere in this video, or we'll make a playlist out of it or something. But the thing is, let me share my screen, and then maybe things will become better. So Mac, let me know when you can see my screen.
I see it.
Okay, awesome. So these are the different components of the stack. And I don't know if you've watched the previous video that I did a while back. I think it was sometime in December. You'll kind of recognize what these different things mean. So we have project services, we have centralized services, we have the technology alignment manager. So in the old video, I called this just a net admin. It is a net admin that performs this role of the technology alignment manager. We have the vCIO, and then we have support. Now, as we discussed last time, what you want to do is you want to get this support guy as low as you can. A lot of times companies, they get focused on support, and that's the wrong focus. This support over here is the downward spiral of death. That's going to kill you. So a lot of companies, and this is both, customers, other, MSPs and IT companies, they haven't figured this out. And that's the big mistake they made when they start to implement anything regarding technology. People start talking about what is your service level agreement? How quickly can you get a tech on site? Those are the wrong types of questions because you are focusing on support. Your focus should be getting rid of support. In other words, if right now you have, let's say, for example, 10 support calls a day, let's say you're in the manufacturing business, you have 10 support calls a day, and you want to find out from your new provider, hey, how quickly can you get somebody on site when somebody cannot print? That's the wrong type of question to ask. What you should be focusing on is, why would somebody not be able to print in the first place? That should be your focus. And that's what this entire stack does, is it takes care of the root cause of the issues to minimize support costs, implements industry standards across the board. Now, I remember back when we first started, there were some companies who would ask us, oh, hey, yeah, we need a couple of servers and stuff, but server racks are expensive. Can we just not do server racks? And and a lot of IT companies, when they're first starting out, they will work with the customer and say, okay, yeah, you don't need a server rack. We'll just stick the server on a table up there and hope for the best. The industry standards are there for a reason. The reason for a server rack is, number one, anybody who has physical access to a server can take full control of that server. It takes about 5 minutes. Most high school kids can probably do that. So you need to physically secure the server. You need to physically secure the network cabling and the switches. There is some infrastructure that you need to physically secure, and that's the purpose of a rack. Another purpose of the rack is most rack mount servers out there, they will not perform well if they're not in a rack. And Matt, this is a trick question for you. Can you tell me why? I got you on that one.
You got me on that one. I have no clue.
So the rack servers are designed to be installed in a rack. If you put them on a table, they will start overheating. They will start to fail because the way they're designed is they keep the airflow in a rack in mind, and it basically pulls air from the bottom and shoves it up at the top. So it's designed that way to have that airflow. If you put them on a flat table with no vent at the bottom, you're blocking a lot of that airflow. So now all those fans are going to start kicking in harder and harder, trying to pull more air in. Along with trying to pull more air in, it's going to suck in all the dust and everything. And that's why some of the servers you open up and there, you touch the fan and it's like black stuff on your finger. That's carbon that is pulled in. But anyway, so this is the entire stack right here. And within this stack, the glue that pulls it all together is our secret sauce. Excuse me. So here's how this works. So let's put support aside for a minute. We're trying to figure out how a world-class MSP minimizes support, minimizes ticket volume, gets rid of that support downward spiral of death. right? So it all starts with these two roles, the TAM and the vCIO. So the first thing that happens is the TAM goes on site, does a review, and I'm gonna show you how this cycle works, and it's a continuous cycle. TAM goes on site, does a review. TAM gets that review information over to the vCIO. That information flows back and forth between the vCIO. The CIO takes that technical information. It's going to be information like, we'll take security for example. So they're going to take information like what kind of hardware they have, what kind of switches they have, what speed are the switches, how old are the switches, what's the life of the server the customer has, is the server, how many volumes does the server have, what kind of event logs are showing up on the server, does the server have a security chip in there, is BitLocker enabled on the volume? A lot of information. I mean, we have like over 200 different vectors that we look at. That information, that technical information, goes to the vCIO. Now, it's the vCIO's job to translate that into what management can understand. That's all the vCIO does, right? So now the vCIO says, okay, Mr. Customer, you have this server. It is 3 years old. It does not have a TPM chip in there. And it does not have BitLocker encryption on there. And let's say, for the sake of argument, the customer is in the financial business. So now we have a server where BitLocker cannot be enabled on a volume. It does not have a TPM chip. So the data at rest in that server is not encrypted. So that's an easy failure for compliance. So that company automatically is not in compliance. Now we have ourselves seen companies in the financial business where when we started implementing our process, we took over from their in-house IT department and we started implementing our process. For years, the company has been passing compliance tests. And then we come in and we look at this and we figure out there's no way you can pass compliance tests. There is no encryption on that server. That's a basic requirement to encrypt that data while at rest and during transit on that server. Now, and when we dig a little deeper, we find out, well, the IT guy, he's not a security guy, he's just an IT guy.
Right.
So the IT guy figured that the server was secure enough. I mean, Microsoft has been making Windows for so many years. I mean, I'm sure they've figured that out by now. So let's just say the server is fine. So he checked that box on that form that says we have encryption on the server. Now, when the compliance guys, the auditors come in, they will go through your report and they will randomly pick certain things out of that report to check. Fortunately, they never happened to check if the server volume was encrypted. Had they done that, they would have automatically failed the customer for compliance.
Wow.
But since they never did that, it was an easy renewal, right? Now, we come in and we find out that the server drive is not encrypted. The vCIO now understands that. The vCIO goes to the management and explains to management, not only is it a good practice to do just for compliance, that's less than the minimum that any company should be doing in the first place, right? I mean, even if you're not in the financial business, let's say you're into manufacturing, you should still encrypt your server volumes because most of your intellectual property that is the main revenue stream of your business is sitting on that server. Right. You need to protect that. You need to protect that not only from your users by auditing access, but you need to protect that from maybe like cleaning people coming in at the office after hours.
Right.
These cleaning people, they might have physical access to the server. Let's say that server is sitting on a table somewhere instead of a rack. Now these cleaning people can plug a USB in there and go, do whatever they want, get all the data they need, right?
Stranger things have happened. So.
Yeah. Now this is actual experience I'm talking from. It actually happened where the cleaning people actually access some stuff at a customer site, but that's for another day. Wow. So anyway, so this is something at a bare minimum it should be done. That should be your baseline. That's not, you shouldn't be doing something like this just for compliance. But anyway, so the vCIO now can explain to management why not only are you not compliant with what you're saying you are, but it is an actual risk to the business. It's a risk to the business. It's a risk to your customers. If you're in the financial business and you don't have data secured, data that belongs to your customers, all it takes is one little thing, and something like this can really run a company into the ground, especially if you're a small business. Usually when a disaster like that happens, I think it's like 47% of the time, those companies, they fail, they go out of business. Yeah. So now the vCIO goes to management and says, hey, this is what we need to get done. Management says, wow, we didn't know that. Nobody told us that before. Yeah, we need to get that done yesterday. So now the vCIO gets with the technical team and they implement a project for encrypting the server. So now this vCIO is engaging the project services team. Now, the project services team encrypts the server. That stops your calls that are going to in future generate a support ticket. So we got rid of that support ticket. Nobody's going to call us and say, hey, the server got breached and a lot of data leaked out because it wasn't encrypted, because the vCIO implemented encryption. The vCIO talked to management, got approval, implemented an encryption on the server. So now that ticket that could have come in saying, oh, by the way, our cleaning people logged into our server and they walked off with a bunch of data, that ticket is not going to happen. So that's how that support call gets reduced. Now, this is just an example, around security where, this is a security example, but it could be a simple thing. Let's talk hardware. It's easier to understand.
Okay.
Switches, right?
Yep.
Switches are getting very old. They're more than 3 years old. Their life is done. They're no longer in production. The TAM's report shows this to the vCIO. The vCIO talks to management. Hey, next quarter we need to replace these switches because they are out of life. Their life is over. Gets approval, installs new switches. Now, what that vCIO just did is avoided downtime for the customer, because that switch that is beyond its life now is not going to fail. They replaced it with a good switch that still has plenty of life left ahead of time. And that switch is not only now fully supported by the manufacturer, but also it's running faster, because standards change so often. So instead of let's say, for example, instead of a 100 Mbps switch, now you got in 1,000 Mbps switch. So now your network is running that much faster. We did the same thing. We avoided that support call that one day when that switch dies and half the office says, hey, we can't log in, we can't do anything. This is costing us, $5,000 an hour, whatever. So that's how that one piece works so well. And the way we run this process is our secret sauce. I can tell you that, but then I'll have to kill you, But anyway, so that's one piece of that, how support costs get reduced. Now, let's talk a little bit about centralized services, right? So the centralized services is a team whose sole purpose is to implement processes to automate tasks. Easy, right?
Yeah.
That's all they want to do. Just automate tasks. Okay, now, what kind of tasks? For example, we want to automate analyzing event logs from your server. We don't want to have a human every day going through thousands and thousands of logs that every server across 100 of our customers generate. It's not even practical. I mean, we'll need 100, 150 people to go through the logs. I mean, and if you've seen a log coming out of the server, I mean, it's like going, so it's not going to stop. So the purpose of centralized service is to automate those type of tasks. Now, what is that doing? If your centralized services is running well, they would have automated the task of analyzing the event log on the server. So if there are, for example, somebody trying to log into the server from an IP address that we don't recognize at a weird hour at night, well, that's a red flag, right? So when you get a red flag like that, now you need to figure out, you need to have something in place to block that traffic. So in other words, if a user is trying to log in, let's say 5 times with an invalid password, that is, the chances are pretty good that if somebody's trying to break into somebody's account, they're trying to guess the password. If your centralized services is doing a good job, we want to automate the process of, okay, this IP address from China trying to log in 5 times in the middle of the night. What I'm going to do is I'm going to block that entire subnet for 5 days until a human intervenes and allows that traffic. Now, there's another real life case that happened. So this was in the oil industry, a company in the oil industry, and they manufacture stuff for people in the oil field. And they have manufacturing in China. So their VP was actually flying out to China, but IT didn't know. We didn't know that he was going to China. But anyway, so he went to China and he logged in from China at night. It was day over there, it was night over here. He tried to log in and he just happened to forget his password. He had changed it and he just forgot. He changed it before he flew out. And then once he got there, he just forgot. So he tried to log in. He tried 5 times. The 6th time, the system said, "You're done, Bubba." So what happened is the system automatically blocked that entire subnet until a human intervenes and opens that subnet to allow that entire subnet to come in. Now, what we've done is, here's why this is crucial. So by blocking that subnet, what we've done is we've taken away that chance of that hacker who could have been trying to log in to go next door and try to log in from there thinking, oh, this is just my IP address that's been blocked, so I'm going to go next door and do it from their IP address. Well, no, we're going to block the entire subnet. We can go a step further to where we can block the entire country, but we don't go that far. We only block that entire subnet, and we block it for a certain amount of time. And if that was a legitimate error, which in this case it was, then we need human intervention to override the machine, reset the password for that VP who forgot his password, and then he can log back in and everything is fine. We remove the block and everything is fine. So that again now reduces your support costs, because we're not going to get that call in the middle of the night saying, oh, hackers had access to a certain account. They were able to log in because it was an easy password and they just guessed it. And you wouldn't believe how many servers are out there where nobody is monitoring logs.
Yeah.
That's it's one of those services where it makes a huge impact but nobody thinks twice about it. So people who work on centralized services, they don't interact with other people because they're just working in the background. It's almost like a Navy SEAL went somewhere in the middle of the night and saved the world, but nobody knows who he is.
Exactly.
Nobody knows what the world was about to end. And it's so this is you have to be really passionate about what you do to build these systems in centralized services that nobody even really knows about, much less appreciate them. Right? When we talk to our customers and we say, "Oh yeah, we have our intrusion prevention system, and it'll detect if somebody's trying to break in, and it'll block that IP." Well, easy to say. I mean, management understands that. They don't understand all the work that goes in. A whole team of people that develop that process and hone that process over years, perfecting it to where we gather so much intelligence that just by looking at the way a certain attack is crafted, we can detect who tried to launch that attack. And by the way, that's how that SolarWinds attack was tracked down to Russians, is because people in the security field, they collect so much data that just by looking at the way the attack was crafted, they can tell, oh, this is so and so. I know this signature. This is so and so. And when I say signature, it's not that they're signing their name. It's the signature of the attack. The way the attack was processed that's what kind of gives it out. So again, the bottom line is we are reducing that cost, that support. Support is always a cost to the customer, to us. We want to minimize it as much as we can. The TAM, the Technology Alignment Manager, along with the vCIO, those both working together as a team, then they generate project services, which reduces support. Centralized services work to reduce support. The ultimate end of the line is that instead of having 50 or 100 support calls a day, now you're down to 5 or 6 support calls a day.
Just by being proactive.
That's why we say we are proactive, is because of this. Now, and I'm not gonna lie. When we first started out, we were just focusing on this guy right here, like most MSPs out there do, or IT companies. I hate to say MSPs because they're really not MSPs if they're focusing just on that. So other IT companies, they just focus on support. A lot of customers are only concerned about support. They're not digging deep enough to get to the root cause of that support ticket, to get rid of the root cause of that support ticket. They're just focusing on, let's handle our support tickets faster. Let's put more people on here to handle our support tickets faster. One of the other aspects that I've learned over the years, running an MSP business, is that a lot of companies out there think that they want to have a bunch of entry-level people at their support desk, at their help desk. And that doesn't make sense, because if you have a bunch of entry-level people, and if they are not able to resolve the issues and simply assigning the ticket and escalating to another engineer, so if that engineer was the one taking that ticket, they would have resolved it right then and there. The less number of people a ticket touches, the lower is the cost of that ticket. You would think
that's common sense, but unfortunately,
So it's common sense now that we talk about it, because we figured it out.
Yeah, that's true.
If you haven't figured it out, and there's a lot of IT companies who haven't figured it out. If you haven't figured this out, then to you it's like a black box. You can't make heads or tails. There's a lot of IT companies that come, they start up, they stay in business for about a year, and then they're gone because they never figure out that black box. They never get to why that is what it is. They never get to the process, and that process is something that you have to get done over time. It's not, I can go and start another business and my process will be a little different. It's not going to be the exact same process. It's just one of those things. There's so many variables. There's so many things that go into it. And that's why we protect this process. You know, I'm giving you a big overview of what it is. I'm not giving you the internal details of how all this works. That's our secret sauce.
Right.
And you know, that is something specific to PCSN that nobody else knows. And that's the thing that drives this cycle. And the more time a customer spends in this program, the better their entire business gets. You know, I mean, so much so that we have customers out there who've been in this program for years, and you know, every once in a while they'll come to us and say, oh, by the way, we're not getting any support tickets anymore. You know, last month we didn't have any support tickets. I think we need to scale some of these services back down. And my answer to that is, why do you think you're not getting any support tickets? It's not because there's, you know, that everything is just all of a sudden magic. No, it's because of this process that you're not getting support tickets. There is actually stuff we can trace back to, which is preventing these support tickets. Now, the example I gave you earlier of that switch, same thing applies to routers, wireless access points. I mean, there are companies out there that might generate a support ticket. Our wireless gets slow at certain times or things like that because they just don't know. They're not in this program. They are not collecting the data to see what's the cause of that slowness. And a lot of their in-house IT people or other IT companies, all they want to do is they want to throw more access points at the problem. They're like, oh, well, maybe you're not getting good coverage. Let's just add a couple of extra access points on there. You're just throwing hardware at the problem, and that's never the solution. Basically, you did not understand the problem. You just pulled something out of thin air, and you're hoping it'll stick, right? And it may temporarily mask the problem. It's not going to resolve the problem. That's not a scalable situation. You don't want to go down that path. You need to get to the root cause of the problem. And I don't know if I told you this example. I think we've talked about this and I'm going to touch on it really quick. A long time ago, one of the guys was working on one of the mini computers at an insurance company, and the network card had died in this mini computer. And the tech went on site and he swapped it out, and it was working. And he says, "Okay, let's go." So it wasn't me; it was one of the other senior engineers that was on there. And so the senior engineer said, after he replaced the network card, he asked the junior guy. He was like, "Okay, so what should we do now?" And he was like, well, let's go home. We're done. You know, we replaced the network card. Everything is good. Let's go home. And so the senior engineer reached out to him and says, no, we haven't even gotten started yet. We need to start and figure out why that network card died in the first place. Network cards don't just die. It died for a reason. So that's when, with that junior guy who had just been on board like a few days, it clicked with him. You know, just fixing a problem is not the solution. The solution is to understand why the problem happened in the first place, get to the root cause of it, and have a permanent fix so it doesn't happen again. And I didn't even know about this until that junior guy. He was with us for years and years, and finally he left us and he kind of retired. And then I was talking to him one time, like this is, years after the fact. I didn't even know what had transpired. And he told me, he was like, Nadeem, I have learned so much at PCSN. You can't even believe it. And I was like, what, what do you learn over here? I mean, IT stuff. And he was like, no, I learned a lesson in life. And it's like, you should always get to the root cause of things. And that's when he gave me the example of what happened. It was like a few days into his employment that he encountered this. And he said, he's been using that, and he's now into I think he has like a body shop or a workshop or something in Houston. He just retired, and that's what he liked to do. So that's what he's doing. And he says, I still use that same principle when I'm working in anything. So the thing is, you want to get to the root cause of the problem. And this process, if you can create this process internally, you will notice how your support calls go down, And that's what you want. Your support calls should be at a minimum. Now, like I said, sometimes we do get pushback from customers where they're like, well, let's cut back on some services. Let's cut back on the vCIO service because we don't get that many support calls anymore. You cut out that vCIO service or that vCIO option in there, that role, and you will notice that your support calls start rising because that process is broken.
Yeah.
It's the process that is reducing your support costs, making happier users, ultimately impacting the bottom line of the business. So in this case, security, like that person logging in from China, how can you catch that? You better make sure you are monitoring those logs. You better make sure you are following industry standards. Your servers have encryption. Data, a simple thing to remember is data should always be encrypted while in transit or at rest. Simple thing. Just remember that.
That's simple.
So if the data is traveling at a wire, it should be encrypted. If the data is traveling through the air over Wi-Fi, it should be encrypted. If that data is sitting on a server somewhere or somebody's hard drive or iPad, it should be encrypted. Simple.
Wow.
Anyway, I've taken so much time, Mac.
This is good.
I wanted to get a little bit deeper on this. I mean, I can talk on this stuff for days and days. And I think one of these days I'm going to give out some secrets that I shouldn't be giving out.
No, we can't do that. No.
But this process is this is the culmination of about, I don't know, 23, 24, maybe 25 years now of my life, what I've learned, this is how we cracked the egg. This is how we did it, by using this process. And you take one component out of this, the whole machine breaks.
Yeah.
This is, you can't take project services out. You take project services out, you can't replace that switch. The process is broken. It's the same thing again. You take centralized services out, nobody's monitoring those logs. Hackers start breaking in. They can do whatever they wish. They can try for days and days. Eventually, they'll figure out that password and log right in, and they'll get your stuff. So you can't really take any of these different components out of it. Each gear is what makes the machine work. And at the end of the day, that's the name of the game. It's a simple process. As long as centralized services does what they're supposed to do, everything else works. As long as vCIO does what they're supposed to do, everything else works. And this is what makes a world-class MSP.
Which we are. Awesome.
So, Mac, I'm going to stop my screen share there. So we've
nice.
We've kind of gone a little deeper than we have ever before around this. Hopefully, people out there will understand this process and have more questions. Now, there might be some questions which I might have to say, well, that's proprietary info.
Can't get that out.
So a lot of the proprietary info, the individual components, they're available like off the shelf. Many companies are selling individual components. The secret sauce is what binds it all together. It's like making a cake. I can give you all the ingredients, and you can make cake-like thing, but it's not going to taste the same when a chef bakes a cake.
Right.
It's that secret sauce is what you need, and so these are some of the ingredients, but it takes a lot of work and trial and error to get that cake just right. And that's what it is. I think I'm going to call this chocolate cake. This is our chocolate cake.
PCSN's chocolate cake. I love it.
So when people ask you, what do you do? Oh, we make cakes. We make chocolate cakes. My specialty is chocolate cake. Forget technology success. That doesn't have that ring to it. I like chocolate cake.
I like chocolate cake. I like that. That's nice. I like that.
So appreciate Mac. We went way over our time, but appreciate you sticking in there.
It's worth it.
Folks out there, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to help. And everybody have a good day and be safe out there. Have a good one, Mac.
Too, boss. Everybody have a good one.
Bye-bye.